This, I guess, kind of ties into some other news that's being made right now, so let's get to that. I want to get your thoughts on it. On the eve of the Israeli elections, a source is telling Fox News that a powerful bipartisan Senate committee is now looking into whether an American nonprofit group used a State Department grant, cash, to openly campaign against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Latest polling does show his party is falling behind the competition now. And that nonprofit group said to have very close ties to the Obama administration, again, cash. In fact, if it did use a $350,000 grant from the State Department to campaign against Netanyahu, it may have violated its tax-exempt status. But the State Department says that particular grant expired before the Israeli election was even set up. I want to know your thoughts, Rachel.
Well, first of all, this president, I'm sorry, I lost my thoughts right there.
I look at the president and trying to meddle in the election of our best friends in the Middle East and influence that election. This shows poor judgment on behalf of the president. And when he has this kind of bad judgment, we also look at what he's done with ISIS, with Iran, what he's done with Russia. I mean, the guy's foreign policy has been a disaster, and this is just one more example in a long line of flubs.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, I lost my thoughts on that one, but I think that the Green Revolution, when the protesters came out and said, we want to overthrow this Iranian regime, and he turned his back on that, that shows a real lack of judgment, and that we should trust him now. It's probably one of the biggest foreign policy blunders of our time. He is absolutely trying to fundamentally change the Middle East, and I got criticized a lot when I said that the last time on this show, and I think this is part of that plan. I think he is absolutely trying to fundamentally change the United States.
You're right. He's trying to change the entire map of the Middle East. I mean, he's pushed for Mubarak to step down in Egypt. He pushed for Gaddafi to step down. Now he's meddling in Israeli elections. He called for Assad to step aside. That didn't happen. But he's trying to influence the politics in the Middle East, except for
where he could.
Iran.
Exactly.
Except for, of all places, Iran. And Harris, very quickly, there's an article out that's trending in The Atlantic that I just want to mention so we get it on our show because it's huge. It's asking the question whether or not Jews should be leaving Europe. This is a time when we are seeing unprecedented anti-Semitism spreading throughout the world, but specifically in Europe. This is the last thing we should be doing is trying to meddle in elections and push Netanyahu out.
So I want to go back to that nail on the head that you mentioned, Iran, because Netanyahu came here to talk about that deal. Right. Wouldn't it be interesting if somehow the State Department's efforts to quiet him might have been to push him out of office kind of behind the scenes by giving money to a group that was openly campaigning against him? Now, remember, the president, Jedediah, said he couldn't meet with Netanyahu this month when he came because it was too close to the election. Yet, just within the last few months, they were able to give cash to this group that was campaigning against him.
And I think I think the big problem for the president is that Netanyahu convinced a lot of Democrats. He got up there, he spoke very bluntly about what was happening.
And who is that a problem for?
I think it's a problem for President Obama, who's trying to say, you know what, get out of my way. This president doesn't like checks and balances. He's not interested in that. He wants to do what he wants to do. He doesn't want resistance from Republicans, and he certainly doesn't want resistance from his own party saying, hold on a second, this is a bad deal. Maybe we need to reconsider it. So I think that trip from Netanyahu was big because it brought a lot of people together on both sides of the aisle to say, hold on a second, this deal wasn't what we thought it was. I'm not going to give this president power of executive overreach to do whatever he wants on an issue so sensitive and so important to our national security.
And very quickly, did the shady lady approve the grant? Because this was before the shady lady
Secretary of State
green light that grant. That's my question.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are following this one. By the way, have you seen it on other mainstream media networks? I haven't seen this story today very much. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to cover it because, as you said, it's big news. If this actually ties the State Department to a campaign that was being waged against a prime minister in another country,
but they may do this hearing, and it may be a fait accompli. I mean, we can do the hearing and find out that they did that they actually gave the money, but in the end, Netanyahu may lose an election because of what's happened. It could be a fait accompli.
We'll cover it as it happens. Well, with record-breaking snowfall comes a lot of snow days for schools in the Boston area, as you might imagine. But instead of having students start school earlier in the fall, one school district is opting to drop 3 religious holidays from the school calendar. And that has many parents and the community very upset. Also, college or campaign? While he has not officially announced a presidential run, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker has already decided his sons will join him on the campaign trail. Well, we are going to debate if that is a good idea or not because they'll forego going to college for a time to join Dad. Stay close.